Listening to a GWP weather update. It's Thursday, March 5th, 2026, and today we're going to be looking at the severe weather that's ongoing across the Central Plains right now and through the rest of tonight. And then we'll also be looking at tomorrow's severe weather threat here across the state of Missouri. So let's go ahead and start off by looking at our national weather alerts that we do have. This is from the National Weather Service's alert board across the country here, and you'll notice that we have many different alerts from the state of Alaska, where we've got some winter alerts, we've got some snow to the north, some wind alerts, some fire risk just to the west, where we have some of that drier air of our just to the west of our severe weather where we do have that fire risk. Then we got some ongoing flooding across the Ohio Valley. Looks like we've got some fog alerts here, some ice going on across the Northeast. So really a whole lot going on here across the country. But the main focus, at least here in the Central Plains, is going to be the severe weather that we're going to see tonight and tomorrow, particularly for the state of Missouri as we go into the time on tomorrow. Just also, again, as we do have some of those severe thunderstorm watches and tornado watches, the tornado watch from the panhandle of Texas into western Oklahoma, that goes until 12 a.m. Central Standard Time. This severe thunderstorm watch across central southern Kansas, that goes in effect until 4 a.m. tomorrow morning. So those watches going for the next several hours as we will have that risk for severe weather. And you'll notice that we do have some ongoing alerts at this point in time. We've got 3 tornado warnings, 5 severe thunderstorm warnings. 2 of those tornado warnings are for a radar indicated rotation, and then one of them is for an observed rotation. So we had our first tornado that was observed earlier this evening here across the panhandle of Texas, just to the east of Amarillo, and that would be along Interstate 40. So again, this has been a confirmed tornado at this point in time, really the first one that we've had so far as we look at some of that information. So again, a confirmed tornado was located near Quail in Texas. That was at about 9:07. That tornado warning lasting until 9:45. So that was something that we had just a little bit ago. That was our first tornado. Other than that, we've had some golf ball size hail reported, some lime size hail as well. So that all has to do with this area that is at risk for severe weather. We've got that enhanced severe weather risk across the panhandle of Texas and into western Oklahoma, but all of that is going to be staying to our west. Now, a few of these thunderstorms could make it into western Missouri in particular, and if that does happen, that could actually limit any severe weather that we see tomorrow. And so that's kind of the interesting thing about that is conditions may not be as favorable for severe weather if those thunderstorms come through during the overnight hours and into the morning hours across the state of Missouri. So that could limit the amount of energy that we need in order to get these thunderstorms in order to develop. Going into tomorrow's risk, since that's the really big question here, you'll notice that the enhanced risk has moved around just a little bit since we showed you this yesterday, but across western Missouri, including Kansas City, all the way down to Joplin, as well as into Tulsa, and then even into southeastern Oklahoma. We've got northwestern Arkansas that is included in that. And then the Lake of the Ozarks is kind of like the cutoff, I guess you could say. And then about halfway between Kansas City and Columbia, that's the cutoff between this enhanced risk and the slight risk. Now, we did have a really big change that took place a few hours ago. The tornado risk, there was a 10% risk across western Missouri. That has now been removed, and now it's been moved to eastern Oklahoma, northwestern Arkansas, and far southwestern Missouri, not including Joplin and Nevada. So Joplin is now on the edge of that 10% category. And basically, what this means is the tornado threat has gone down just a little bit for tomorrow. So that is certainly some good news. The highest tornado risk will be across eastern Oklahoma and northwestern Arkansas, but there will still be the risk for isolated tornadoes across eastern Kansas and western and central Missouri from some of those supercell thunderstorms that we will be experiencing into the afternoon and evening hours. And then we'll be dealing with a line of storms as we go into the overnight hours, and we'll still have a bit of a tornado threat. It'll just be a little bit lower. What about that risk for damaging winds? We're also going to have that, as you'll notice that we have that yellow area highlighted from Oklahoma to Arkansas. And then we have this hatched region over here. As you'll notice, we got these little lines. That's where we could be looking at the increased risk of not only 60-mile-per-hour winds, but 70 to 80-mile-per-hour winds. So, or at least increased risk for stronger wind gusts. That's something we're going to have to deal with. The wind threat is going to mainly be from obviously the tornadoes, but the straight line damaging winds, the main threat is going to be during the overnight hours because that is going to move in with the line. So the squall line that's going to move through, that's what's going to pose that wind risk. What about on the hail side of things? Well, hail is going to be a pretty big risk as we go into tomorrow. It's definitely the highest risk out of all of the categories for western Missouri. Of course, that tornado risk being higher to our south. And so those areas, it's more of a tornado hail threat. For us, it's more of a hail threat that we could see with the supercells, but also from that line. And that's the reason why our hail risk is a little bit higher, is because we can not only see hail and tornadoes from the supercells, but we could also get them from the line of thunderstorms that's going to come in during the overnight hours as well. So what are we actually talking about here? Sometimes that gets a little bit confusing if we're not looking at radar here. And so that's this is from Tropical Tidbits here, showing you the radar. So again, we've got those thunderstorms out there this evening. Could see some tornadoes for our neighbors in Kansas and Oklahoma, so we'll have to watch out for that. A few of those storms will make it in during the early morning hours, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the morning. So you could have some thunderstorms on the morning drive. You may even have a rumble of thunder that might wake you up a little bit earlier in the early morning. And then some rain north of Interstate 70, a few showers and thunderstorms expected across that area. None of these are expected to be severe. So this is not the severe weather threat that we have been talking about here. The severe weather threat is going to be after about 3 or 4 o'clock. We're going to have these individual supercell thunderstorms that are going to develop. And we don't know the exact location of these, but we do know that the further south you go, particularly south of Interstate 44, that's where the risk is going to be higher during the early afternoon hours. Here across the state of Missouri, the risk doesn't really begin until about 5 or 6 p.m. That's when we're going to have these supercells, and then they're going to start to merge into these larger complexes of thunderstorms, and then they're going to organize into two different lines, or at least that's what the current future radar shows. This could end up being one big line, it could be one big complex of thunderstorms, it could be two lines of thunderstorms. That's some of the details that we're going to have to work out as we go forward in time. And then eventually that line will move through during the overnight hours. So this is where the tornado risk is going to lower just a little bit. And then the straight line wind risk is going to be on the increase during this line. So I guess kind of to go over that one more time. So again, morning round of thunderstorms. This is the same storms that we have right now across Oklahoma and Kansas, but they're going to weekend move through during the morning. Depending on the amount of rain that we get across the state of Missouri in the morning, that's going to determine how favorable the environment is going to be for additional thunderstorms later that day. These thunderstorms are not going to be severe. They may not even make it here. And then we're going to have isolated thunderstorms during the early afternoon hours across Oklahoma and Arkansas. Those are going to be those supercells, and that's where we're going to have the risk for large hail and isolated tornadoes, particularly within those supercells. The supercells will begin to combine into complexes. Our tornado threat will drop slightly into the evening hours as these storms move into the state of Missouri. Then we will see two lines around kind of after 9 or 10 o'clock, then we will see two lines of thunderstorms develop. Within those lines, we'll have a lower tornado risk, an even lower risk, with a few spin-ups possible, but the damaging wind threat and the heavy rain threat, that is going to take over after 10 or 11 o'clock. Once this final line of thunderstorms moves through during the early morning hours on Saturday, the cold front is going to come through, our temperatures are going to drop, drier air is going to begin to move in behind the front, and then that's going to be the end of our severe weather threat once that happens. Important thing to note about this, because of this particular setup, it is possible that some people may not see rain out of the storm system. So just kind of Keep that in mind as we go through the day tomorrow. And then as we go into Saturday, severe weather risk staying far away from here. So the weekend looks good, Monday looks good, and then you'll notice that even in the long range, there is the possibility of severe weather as we go into your Tuesday, with the SPC highlighting parts of the state of Missouri as we go into early next week. A little bit too early to know all the details on that, but for now, the main focus should be the severe weather that we are expecting for tomorrow. All right, that is it for today in your GWP weather update.